Hello and welcome to this week's Spurgeon Cougar Roar video. This week we're spending time getting ready for the DWA, the District Writing Assessment, and we're going to hear from our English Department Chair, Mr. John Imrisi, and he's going to talk us through what one of our students was able to do on behalf of everybody. Mr. Imrisi.
Hi. I worked with Brian Ronhale, who's in one of my classes this week, and we were just talking about having a conversation, and I was asking him about the writing process. You guys have been working hard, and there's a way to do the DWA, the District Writing Proficiency Test. And if you know what you're going to do first, second, and third, and if you know the stuff, then boom, you're going to be able to do it quickly and get the job done. Brian did a pretty good job. I asked him some questions, and he just answered the questions, and I think he did a pretty good job. Let's see what he did. We're talking about the writing process. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing the DWA. You're going to get the DWA packet. What are you going to do with this thing first?
First, usually people skim through it, but then we gotta go back and look at the writing situation. At the writing situation, it's usually background information, very vague, that you could use later on in your paragraphs. The bottom is really important. It's where you actually have the information of what to do.
What do you do with those writing directions?
Well, what we've been doing is circling verbs and underlining what those verbs go on with. So we would circle right, and then it would underline 5 paragraphs.
And what's the purpose of this? To waste time?
No, it's really to clarify about what you're actually writing about. Because some people might get confused on just reading all these words, and it might get confusing at times.
So, you've got your essay packet. First thing you do is you go to the back, you look at the prompt. What are you going to do? You look at the writing situation, you read that. You look at the writing directions, you make a do-what chart. Doesn't take you very long, 5 minutes, something like that, 7 minutes maybe. Then what?
Next, you go to where you skim the actual prompt, and you number the paragraphs.
To the text that you're working with?
Yes.
Why would you number the paragraphs?
So the purpose of the numbers is really going back and saying on paragraph 11, the author states blah, blah, blah. So the reader can go back onto it and actually see it for clarification. Once you're done with that, now's the time to actually read. And what we do is circle the important stuff like names, dates, places, percentages, and names of companies and other things.
When do you decide, and how do you decide which side to root for, which side to support?
Well, usually people might go with what they're biased to, but if you really want to get an A, it would be really easy to just go on the side that has more information and more evidence.
How can you really tell just by looking at it?
Well, what we do at the end of circling and underlining, we make a T-chart of the pros and cons, see which one has the most evidence and information, and we go, usually people go for the one that has more.
So what are you going to do with that T-chart?
When I'm in the T-chart, I like to put a star right next to the arguments that have the most authority and what would probably convince the reader more.
Then it's time to write.
Yes.
How do you get this thing started?
So usually people start with a hook, but the hook's kind of hard if you just look at it and try to think of a hook for 30 minutes. So it's okay if you want to just come back to it later and start on the tag, which is title, author, and genre. And the genre is what kind of writing it is, like a poem or a play. But for this circumstance, it's an article. Then we go to the background information. And in this, you have to go back to the writing prompt and get all that vague information that we discussed earlier. And we talk about who's arguing with who and why this argument is important. Next, you have to go to your thesis. And in this thesis, you have to prove in your essay how you're right. And you have to convince the reader in that sentence why they should be reading at all.
So what is this TPAC acronym that I've heard about?
Well, the T stands for topic. It's what you're actually talking about. And it's the introduction to your paragraph. Every paragraph has an introduction. And the next thing is the evidence. In this evidence, you're going to take it out of the underlining that you did. And take it out and put it in quotation marks. And next is the paraphrasing. In this paraphrasing, you talk about the evidence in your own words so people can understand it better. Next is the analysis. The analysis is where you sell your argument about how or why is it important. Next is the conclusion. In this conclusion, you wrap up the whole paragraph and go on to the next.
And does this pattern, TEPAC, follow for all the body paragraphs?
Yes.
Thank you again for watching this week's Spurgeon Cougar Roar video, and thank you especially to Brian who helped walk us through those steps. Brian, is there anything that you'd like to say?
I'd like to say it's a big honor to help with clarifying on how the steps work, and I honestly think that everyone could pass this DWA test using these steps.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it, and thanks again for watching.